Alright, are we live? Getting a couple of drop frames, which is a little weird. Should not be getting any drop frames. Let me mute a couple of things before we start. I got about a couple of drop frames. That's why. Let me forget this network. Get out of here with that. And let me do not disturb on my phone. Just doing a couple of things. Got a couple of drop frames. I'm plugged up. All my devices are plugged up today, so I don't know why I'm getting some drop frames, but I want to mute my phone because I want to stay focused on today's live stream. All right, so it looks like we're good. What the hell is my mouse? There we go. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 61. I always got to take a look on this section right here because I got it on a sticky note what number I am on. 61. So as you saw, as the title, it says troubleshooting application deployment within MDT. So how would you test out your applications within MDT rather than redeploying the operating system with the application to make sure the application is working properly and is configured correctly? So the application that we are going to use today would be Microsoft 365 Office, which pushes out Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneDrive, and etc. I'm going to show you guys how to create the package step by step and how to import it into MDT. Then we're going to go over what to do within the task sequence and how to initiate the task sequence within a machine that's already built with Windows 11 or Windows 10, and hopefully deploy the application package successfully, and then you're able to do a real-time deployment with the package with no problem because you already vetted and you tested that stuff out. So let's get started. Let me get myself set up here real quick. All right, let's go picture to picture. All right, so I got some slides because I did everything behind the scenes. I am going to show you guys everything live. I like to do the slides because it's straight to the point rather than clicking on something and waiting. I don't like doing that. So on my desktop, on my MDT server, I open up whatever browser I had on this server. You could do it on any machine, but just open up the browser. And once you open up the browser, the first thing that we need to do is go into config.office.com. You're going to hit enter. It's going to load up this page. You're going to scroll down a little bit, and you're going to have two options: create a new configuration or import your configuration. You guessed it. We're going to do is create a new configuration. So we're going to click on that button. You're going to get this Office customization tool. I really can't tell you what's best practice. I can't say, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, and you got the perfect configuration file. It really depends on you. Now, I will go over this super quick on the PowerPoint deck. I only show you this part here, but once you complete it, you're going to get to this section here, which allows you to import, export, or reset. The one that we want to do is export. So once you make all the configuration files or settings and you're happy with it, you're going to click on import, and you're going to get this dialog box. You have three options. Now, the option that I typically would pick is the first one: keep current settings. Everything that I configured, I wanted to keep it. So you're going to click OK here. You're going to get the export configuration to XML. You have to accept the license and terms. You are able to change the file name. It's up to you. I typically leave it as the default of configuration and just click on export. Because we're using Microsoft Edge, it does not like that. Gives us a nice little warning. So just make sure you click on keep, and there goes. Just download it super fast. When you open up the downloads folder, there goes our XML. Now, before we do anything, or before we continue, I want to show you guys how the configuration stuff looks. So I'm just gonna do it like super fast. So in picture, okay. So this is it. I'm gonna click on create, and this is what I just showed you. But most likely you guys are pushing out 64-bit. If you're pushing out 32-bit, make sure you pick 32-bit. Which product and apps do you want to deploy? Click on the drop down, pick your flavor. Again, I can't really tell you what's best for your environment. Pick which one you want to pick. For me, I pick Microsoft 365 apps for business. Then you go to the next. Are you pushing out Visio? Are you pushing out Project? Are you pushing out additional products? Again, this is stuff that you need to go over and configure it within your environment. What channel do you want to push? Current channel, the preview, monthly. Again, it's up to you. I can't really say, hey, this is the master. This, you need to pick this or this. I can't really tell you that. So it really depends on your environment. So just go over all of these when you have time. Select what version. You want the latest one, or do you want the previous one? Okay. Which apps do you want to actually deploy? For me, what I did was current. I did 365 apps for enterprise. I did the latest for apps. I basically kept everything except publisher and OneDrive Groove. I turned that off. Publisher is actually going to be decommissioned pretty soon, so there's no point to actually have it deployed within your environment, so you could actually have that checked off. Background service for Microsoft Search and Bing. I mean, again, have it off. If you don't want that, click on next. It's going to want you to set up the language. So select your language. I am going to pick English, even though my English sucks, and pick that. If you have additional languages that you want to add them here. Once you're done on this section, just click next. Installation option, you have a couple. Local source, Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. I can't tell you what's best for your environment, but for me, I did CDN, current content delivery network. Just make sure that the machine that you are deploying into has internet access, or your firewall is configured properly for it to talk outside. Once you configure this, before you configure this, you can actually disable this short installation to user. I typically don't like that, so I'll turn that off. Click next. Update and upgrade, upgrade options. If Visio or Project or SharePoint Designer info path is already inside the machine, uninstall it. This is up to you. If you want to turn it on, turn it off. There's a good chance, because there's a new deployment, it's not going to have those applications, so you can actually have it off. Click next once you're done. License and terms, you definitely want to turn this on. You want to automatically accept the EULA, end user license agreement. That's what that stands for. Product activation. What type of product activation are you doing? User base, shared computer, device base. Most likely is user base, because if you're using or utilizing Microsoft 365 licensing, each user on your tenant has a license to use the Office product. So user base will be it. If it's a shared computer, most likely that computer has a shared license. So what that means is when an Active Directory user logs into that computer and they launch Office, it's automatically going to sign in with their AD account, because AD, hopefully in your environment, is synced to Azure AD, and you have licenses attached to that that Azure AD account that provides them a Microsoft license to use the products. And then you have device-based. Again, that's it's based on the device. I think most likely you will use device-based if you're utilizing Intune. Once you configure the product key section, click on next. You have general, company name, you enter your company name or whatever you want, BTNHD. Nice product description, up to you. Next. You got the application preferences. You have a lot of them. I can't really tell you what's best right here. You are able to filter it out to only Office and then configure what you want to disable and enable within the Office products. Do you want to enable tooltips? Do you want to make the icons larger? You can really get into the configuration in this part right here. But again, all depends on how you want to deploy it. So once you're done, you're going to click on finish. And once you can click finish, this is what I showed you guys. You are able to click on export. And once you click on export, you get this option. Like I said before, I clicked on this one. I clicked on OK, accept the license and terms. Again, like on the PowerPoint, you got the file configuration, you export, and you're good, right? Again, you are able to change the XML file to whatever you want, but I like to keep it as configuration. All right, so let's go back inside the PowerPoint deck. All right, so once you have your config file already up and running, open up another tab within your browser, and we need to go into the following web address. Now, this web address is actually going to take you here to download the Office deployment tool. So we're going to click on download. It's going to download that exe, and we're going to open up the downloads folder. So we have the Office deployment tool, and we have our XML file. So on the desktop of my MDT, I created a folder Office 365. During the PowerPoint deck, I was going kind of crazy. I think I was really going crazy because I changed the Office 365 folder a couple of times. I changed the name to temp and then Office 365. It doesn't really matter what the name, it really doesn't. I think I had just one of those crazy moments. I was being really anal with the folder name, but it does not matter what you call it. So within this folder, it's blank right now, but I open up the downloads folder. I selected that Office deployment tool application that we downloaded and that XML file that we configured, or well, I configured behind the scenes, and I show you guys how to do it quickly. I took those two, I dragged them and dropped them inside that folder. So the first thing that I did is I selected that exe, I right-clicked on it, I ran it as an administrator. Most likely when you run it as an administrator, you will get the user account control. Just make sure you hit yes. You're going to get this dialog. You're going to click or check off, click here to accept the Microsoft software license and terms, and just click on continue. Browse for a folder. I'm going to drop it in the root of that Office 365 folder that I created on the desktop, and then click OK. Files were extracted successfully. The only thing that gets dropped inside that folder that you picked, which will be a bunch of XML files and a setup.exe file. We're going to open up the start menu. We're going to type in CMD. We're going to right click on our command prompt and run it as an administrator. Again, most likely within your environment, you're going to get the user account control. Just hit yes to load up the command prompt. Now, this is where it gets a little crazy. Like I said before, I was going a little nuts with the naming. I had it Office 365, then I changed it to temp. But again, we're going to do a CD, which stands for change directory, and we're going to change the directory to go inside the folder of where we dropped our XML file and where that setup.exe file was dropped into. So I did the CD, I gave it the path. Again, I changed it to temp. I was going a little nuts during that time. I do apologize, but it doesn't really matter what you name it. Hit enter to get into that directory. Now, the first command that we need to do is the following. We're going to call setup.exe space with a switch of /download and space, and then we're going to call out our configuration file with the extension of .xml, and that is going to actually start the download process. When you hit enter, nothing really happens. The cursor goes to the next line, so just to give it some time. If you go inside the folder that you created on the desktop, you should see a new folder, and it's called Office. Inside Office is going to have all the content that you need. I think the folder itself is about 1.5 to 2 gigs, so it's pretty large. If you head back inside the command prompt, you will see that it's going to basically like stay there, or a new line for you to enter new commands. That basically tells me, or should tell you, that the download process is completed and we're able to go to the next step. Now, the next step that I did is within here, I did a little bit of cleanup, because now we are ready to actually import this folder into MDT, but we don't need all this stuff. So I selected the Office Deployment exe file, and all the XML files that were actually downloaded, I selected them except the one that we created. And I right clicked on it and I clicked on delete and I removed it. So everything that you see inside this Office 365 folder that I created on the desktop, which would be the Office folder that was downloaded, the configuration.xml file that we created, and the setup.exe file that was extracted from the Office Deployment Tool application, needs to be there. This is the three things that we are going to import into our MDT server. So let's open up our deployment workbench. We're going to select our applications folder. I don't have anything in here, so this is actually the first application that I will import into my MDT server. So once that application folder is selected, we're going to right click on it. We're going to click on new application. You're going to get the wizard. We're going to leave everything as the default. We do have an application with source files, so we are going to click next here. This is what I gave the PowerPoint, but later on I changed the name, because sometimes I'm kind of like anal with the naming, but it all depends on how you want it configured within your environment. So I just give you like the basic stuff here, but later on when I show you how it looks, I changed the name. Hey, sorry about that. So publisher, I gave it Microsoft. Application name, Office 365. You are able to give it a version. It is optional, and the language is up to you. But the publisher application name, this is what I gave it. Again, like I said, I change it. Click next here. Source directory, you're going to click on browse, and we're going to go into the desktop where that Office 365. You're going to select the entire root. That's what we want. It's actually going to take all the content within Office 365 and import it into our deployment share. So select the root, click OK, boom, click next here. Destination, I left it as the default. That looks pretty nice and sweet. Click next, and then this is where the magic happens. This is the command that we need to provide. We need to call that setup.exe file, give it a space, / with a switch of config space, and then call out your configuration.xml file. That's it. That's where the magic happens. Click next here. You get a nice little summary. Click next. It's going to start importing the content behind the scenes within your deployment share. And once it's completed, you should get this. The process completed successfully. Yes. Click finish. And there goes the application. Like I told you before, I changed the name. Let me see if I could zoom in a little bit for you. I changed the name, even though the PowerPoint deck before one of the slides says Microsoft Office 365. I changed the name to install, but again, it's just me being me, but you could name it whatever you want. Now, once you do this, select your deployment share, right click on it, click on update deployment share. You're going to get the wizard. I left the default option as optimize the boot image updating process. Click next, click next. It's going to start doing the cleanup. Completed and done. Awesome. So basically that's how we create the Microsoft Office 365 package. All right, let me just close a couple of things, and I just want to close up a lot of stuff. So yeah, we created our package, plain and simple. I wanted to show you guys the PowerPoint deck because it's straight to the point rather than wasting time. And this is the application right here. So once we updated the deployment share, next thing that we need to do for us to test this, rather than me creating a new virtual machine or finding a physical machine and pixie booting into it to deploy the operating system with the application and I have to wait and wait to see if the application actually works. I don't want to do that. I want to actually take a machine, like for example, this machine right here. I want to take this machine and I want to test out Office. Now, this machine does not have Office. So if I click on Start, I type in Word. I don't have Word. I don't have PowerPoint. I don't have anything here. So this virtual machine, this PC02, does not have Office installed. So I want to test the configurations that I did on this package to make sure it is valid, and it's ready for deployment. So you want to create a task sequence, and it's a really straightforward task sequence. I'm going to go over it with you right now. I'm just not going to finish it. So the way that you create the task sequence, just select the task sequence node. You're going to right click on it, new task sequence. You're going to give your task sequence an ID. I'm going to call it Office 02. I think the other one was 01. Give your task sequence a name. I'm going to call it Microsoft 365 apps installation. I mean, it's up to you. Give it a comment. TSR number 061. Today's episode 61. Yeah, I'm going strong. Click next here. Your template is going to be a custom task sequence. We're going to click next. As soon as you do custom task sequence, it's going to jump straight to the summary. It's not going to allow you to do the OS or the product key or the OS or the admin. It just goes straight into summary. That's what we want. We're going to click next here, and we're going to click finish. Right? So I already have this guy. This guy is the one that we're going to use, but I'm just showing you guys how to do it. So we just created a custom task sequence. We're going to double click on it to open it up. And a couple of things that we want is basically go into the task sequence. Once we're in the task sequence, it already has what we want. Install application. So I don't really need to do anything other than click on install a single application, click on browse. Once you click on browse, we only have one application, and we're going to click OK. And then from here, we're going to click apply and OK. That's it. Done. That's it. That's all you have to do. That's it. That's your custom. Next thing that you want to do is make sure you update your deployment share. Once you update your deployment share, you should be ready to deploy the application. So I'm going to delete this guy because in reality, it's the same thing as this guy right here. It's the same thing. I didn't make any changes. Same thing. Task sequence has the install application, and I'm just calling out the install Office 365 app that we created. And I'm going to show you the application. I don't want you guys to think that I did anything different. It is the same. See, config. Let me zoom in for you. Yep. Just like the PowerPoint deck, this is the command that I'm using for this particular application. There's nothing special to it. So we're going to cancel this, and it is time for us to test our deployment. So how would you test your deployment? Now, to test your deployment, I'm on PC02. Rather than me creating a new virtual machine and starting the Pixie boot and getting into the Microsoft deployment and authorizing, picking a task sequence, picking an application, it has to install it has to format the partition, it has to format the hard drive, partition it, install the operating system, install drivers, install the package, do a reboot. Such a long time just to validate if the package is working properly. So on PC02, what you could do is we're going to right click on the start, we're going to click on run, and let me zoom in, and we want to go into our MDT server, and we want to go into the deployment share. Now I gotta do a $ because the deployment share is hidden. So once you do whack MDT, MDT is the name of my MDT server. Super simple, right? Deployment share, or if you change the deployment share name when you created your first deployment share within MDT, it's a lot of deployment shares in there. give it whatever name with the $sign. I kept it as the default, and I'm going to click OK. Now, for this to work properly, a couple of things. You have to either, because I'm logged in as Bernardo.Arocho. Bernardo.Arocho is a domain admin, so I'm actually able to hit the deployment share. If you have end users that you don't want to log them off to start this process, you might have to change the permissions of your deployment share. It's really up to you. I feel like best practice is just do a switch off. Switch whatever computer you want to deploy the application, just switch it to someone that has full admin rights to the deployment share to start the process. So once you're in here, we are going to go into the scripts folder. And once you're inside the script folder, we are going to get to the section that says Light Touch VBS. This guy right here. This is the one that we are going to double click on it. Let's see if we zoom in. Boop. Yeah. So this is the one that we want to launch. So we are going to double click on it. Double click on it. I think I double clicked on it to change the name. So let's do that one more time. Okay, there it goes. We're going to get the user account control. Hit yes here. I'm going to minimize this. There it goes. For some reason, I think because of the resolution of my laptop and everything, it gets like super small. So I got to stay in this zoom in position with you guys, because if not, I am definitely not going to see it. So this is me zoomed in, and if I zoom out, you see how small it is? It's like super small, and I can't stretch it. It's just crazy. So I'm going to do the zoom in. So there goes the task sequence. If I updated the deployment share with the one that we created together, you would have seen it here, but I didn't want it. I'm going to use the one that I already have here. So select it, click next here. We need to authorize it. So this password would be used for logging onto the computer after a restart. So give it this would be like the local admin password. Technically, you don't need this because it doesn't reboot the computer. Click next here. Now you have to give it credentials. Now this credentials is you're validating the connection to your deployment share. It's kind of weird because I got into the deployment share and I was able to start up the light touch VB script. So it's weird for it asking this, but okay. Give it the information. Give it the password. It already has the domain. Erase the password one more time. Make sure I'm typing it right. And click next. It is ready, and we are going to begin. And we should get the little dialogue. This guy right here. It's installing the application. Install Microsoft Office 365. Got the little black window over here, which is the setup.exe file, and it is going to start the installation. Cool. Yeah, so right now it's just like a waiting game. So that's all we're doing right now is just waiting until it completes. Let me just look at the status of a couple of things. All right, so yeah, this right here is like watching paint dry for a bit. So All right, so we're gonna let it run. I'm gonna get something to drink. So I'm going to disappear. Just disappeared. And I'm gonna mute myself, and we're gonna let this run and see what happens on the deployment. If you guys have anything to say or you want to chat, hit me up. I'm available. Again, we are watching paint dry at the moment because we are installing Office 360. We're installing Office 365. All right. So if you want to chat, hit me up. I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to get some water. Be right back. All right. So we're watching paint dry at the moment, but I'm clicking on start because if stuff is getting installed, you should see some of the applications show up within the start menu. So we saw Word. Well, we're seeing Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Access, Excel, which is good. We're seeing the Microsoft Office Tools folder, OneDrive, OneNote. It's looking good. Installation is working the way it's supposed to work. I'm happy. It's just, again, we're just watching paint dry at the moment until it's completed. But this is a great way to vet your applications that you do within MDT. Would you rather create a new virtual machine or do a new deployment on a physical machine just to test out an application? No. If you have a dummy virtual machine like the way I have it, like PC02, Create your package, create a custom task sequence, attach your new package to that sequence, log into your workstation, go into your deployment share, go to scripts, launch that lighttouch.vbs file, pick your new task sequence that only has your application, launch it, and just sit back, and then you're good to go. Now, whatever errors you receive, you start fixing it, go back inside the package, configure it, and then test again. I like that approach better than doing the whole operating system process and just have to wait an hour or so just to see if the application is deployed successfully. So we're gonna, oh, looks like it just disappeared. Awesome. We have, put my cup over here because I'm clumsy, and we are going to zoom in. Operating system deployment completed successfully. Come on, 0 errors, 0 warnings. That is a good sign. Yes. We're going to click finish here. Awesome. Deployment is done. We just vetted and test out our, not deployment, our package that we created. Now, so if I click on start, there goes all our applications. We got Team, we got Word, we got PowerPoint, we got Access, we got Excel. Okay, it gives you the new Microsoft Teams, which is a pain in the butt. Don't get me started with Teams. You got OneNote, Outlook. All right, good. So let's launch Word. And I think I did user-based. So if you do user-based license, like right now, I'm able to sign in, but I'm going to skip for now. If I sign in, it's actually going to sign into this account. Yeah, because I said skip now, so just close it. But check this out. Close. Yeah. Let me zoom in because I want to show you guys something. Because during the license portion of the configuration.xml file, again, it gives you what? Shared devices, user base, or something like that. On my config file, I did user base. So if this small environment that I have right here was connected to Azure AD, and all my tenants were using first name, period, last name at the domain, as soon as they hit sign in, and it's already signed in to this account, but that first dialog box that we just saw, if I'd have hit sign in, authorize it with a password, if the account has MFA, it will go through, grab the license that is attached to the 365 tenant, and then bam, your thing is licensed. That's it. That is it, guys. That's about it. So we created a package using Microsoft Office 365. We did the configuration. We used Office deployment tools. We imported it into our MDT server, right? We imported. We created a task sequence. We upgraded our deployment share. And again, once you create your task sequence, make sure you right-click, update your deployment share. Make sure you do that. Once you create your task sequence, you find a workstation within your lab or your environment to go into the share, go inside the scripts folder, start that lighttouch.vbs file, pick your new task sequence, click next, give it a password. The first password that you have to enter will be the local password of the computer. Click next. The next password that you have to provide would be authorizing the connection of the deployment share, which is kind of crazy because you got into the deployment share already. So it wants you to do that. Once you do that, click on next. It's not going to reboot depending on what type of application you're pushing out. But for Office 365, I did not need to do a reboot. It was straightforward. And we installed it successfully. So that's the game plan, right? That's what we did today. Hopefully you guys enjoy episode 61. If you have any questions or concerns, leave them at the bottom at the comment section. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and I catch you guys on the next one. Peace out. All right, so I always forget how to stop this. Oh shoot, I'm actually recording and live streaming. That's why I got the drop frames. Oh, that's crazy. I don't know why I'm recording, but you know, whatever. All right, so how you end this? Are we done?